Today on Animal Science, did you know that chimpanzees share about 95% of their DNA with humans? These monkeys are so smart that they can even be taught to brush their teeth. And that the howler monkey has supersized vocal cords that allow it to project its voice over 20 miles. Plus, to help conserve precious energy, ring-tailed lemurs from Madagascar bask in the morning sun like yoga masters. Today, we're all about primates, great apes, baboons, lemurs, and more. Welcome to the fascinating world of animal science. Of the estimated 437 species of primate alive today, there are 3 that seem to capture our imagination the most. Why are we so fascinated with these creatures? Maybe it's because they remind us of ourselves. They are the great apes. While all primates have human-like qualities, there is one that most closely resembles man, the chimpanzee. Aside from humans, the chimpanzee is considered to be the most intelligent animal on the planet. This is because, relative to its body size, the chimp has a huge brain. These Einsteins of the animal kingdom are amazing tool users. Here, we see a captive chimp named Charlie using a toothpick to snatch up raisins. In the wild, Charlie would be snatching up termites. Once he's had enough, this chimp even remembers to brush his teeth.
When we talk about humans and chimpanzees, they're our closest relative, and in many cases, like a really bright chimpanzee might be the equivalent of a 2- or 3-year-old child at some tasks. But in other tasks, when they get them to do some simple, repetitive calculations, they've actually outperformed college students.
Super genius of the primate kingdom, the chimpanzee. Now, you won't find this guy climbing the Empire State Building and smashing helicopters in real life. But he is the largest of all primates. He is the gorilla. Believe it or not, these enormous apes are strict vegetarians and spend countless hours foraging for veggies in the forest. And if that's not enough, the gorilla will sometimes forage up its nose. Classy animals, aren't they? The result of all this eating is that gorillas can consume 40 pounds of vegetation in a single day.
You look at gorillas, they look fat. You see their stomach. I wouldn't want to get too close to a gorilla on the assumption that it's fat. I would bet it's not fat. You're actually seeing a very large digestive system.
These massive apes rarely drink in the wild. This is because the leafy greens they consume are filled with water. So in essence, the gorilla doesn't drink its water, it eats it. Clever little system, don't you think? Maybe the next time you're thirsty and can't find anything to drink, try chowing down on some vegetables. It certainly works for the gorilla, one of our closest living relatives. Deep in the jungles of Southeast Asia, the orangutan moves quietly through the trees. This shaggy, red-haired ape is perfectly suited for life in the forest, mainly because it has incredibly long arms. While the average male orangutan only stands about 5 feet tall, its wingspan stretches to about 7 feet. The orangutan uses its freakish forelimbs to swing effortlessly from tree to tree. This method of locomotion is called brachiation. Kids try it all the time, but they're not quite as talented as our arboreal ancestors. After all, orangutans have been climbing trees for about 50 million years. These great apes are truly the kings of the treetops. Columbus and other explorers came to the New World, they found a vast land of untapped riches. They also found many new species of wildlife. Among them, the New World monkeys. If you've ever taken a trip to the Amazon rainforest, chances are you've seen this miniature-sized monkey scurrying in the trees. It's called a squirrel monkey, and it may very well be the quickest and most agile of all primates. The squirrel monkey's great athleticism stems from the fact that in order to survive, it must constantly evade predators like snakes, hawks, and even jaguars. When in danger, the squirrel monkey is usually able to outmaneuver these enemies with the help of its amazing tail.
The squirrel monkey's tail is as long as its body, maybe even longer. The reason for that is it acts as a balancer. Much like a tightrope walker will use a pole to balance his or her weight when walking along a tightrope.
Not only does the squirrel monkey have awesome balance, but it also possesses superhuman vertical leaping power. It's been said that these monkeys can jump 4 times their body length from a standing position.
Actually, squirrel monkeys would be really good basketball players. If a basketball player could jump as high as a squirrel monkey, a basketball player would be easily able to clear the entire backboard and fly over the hoop.
The squirrel monkey, super athlete of the primate kingdom. Nothing like sitting back and listening to the booming voice of an opera singer. In most parts of the world, we have to pay money to hear such sounds, but not in the jungles of Central and South America. This is where the famous howler monkey lives, the opera singer of the animal kingdom. These slow-moving primates are believed to be the world's loudest land animals. In fact, their deep howls are almost as loud as a jet engine.
When you watch a howler monkey calling, it'll seem to expand its throat or throat sac like a balloon. This is because of the supersized vocal cords which expand and amplify the sound.
Howler monkeys live together in what are called troops, which usually consist of about 10 monkeys. When a troop finds a suitable territory, its members will call out to other troops, notifying them in a not-so-subtle way to keep their distance. This way, potential fights are avoided, and the howler monkeys can go about their daily business in peace, but certainly not quiet. While not nearly as loud as the howler monkey, the capuchin monkey has been given a different talent, brain power. These cute little guys are considered to be the most intelligent of all New World monkeys.
Go get your turn.
How did they get so smart? One theory has to do with the fact that they rely on what scientists call, now get ready for this word, ephemeral food sources. Huh?
By ephemeral, we mean that they're not permanent. So foods such as fruits or flowers, which are seasonal, or even the small bugs or insects that capuchins feed on, are moving around from place to place. The capuchin has to remember the locations of these different food sources.
In order to eat these small fruits and insects, capuchins have evolved awesome dexterity in their hands. They even have opposable thumbs, like we do. This dexterity, combined with their high intelligence, allows capuchin monkeys to perform some amazing tasks around the house. Preparing food, drinks, even turning on the stereo. It's no sweat for this amazing little animal that we call the capuchin monkey. Coming up, find out what makes these monkeys such amazing swimmers, and how the baboon fends off predators with its enormous canines. Find out how lemurs have managed to survive in isolation for the last 50 million years. These primitive creatures are unlike any other primate in the world. Right here on Animal Science. Prior to the great explorers of the 15th and 16th centuries, conventional wisdom held that there were only 3 continents: Europe, Africa, and Asia. These are now known as the Old World continents, home to the Old World monkeys. Meet the long-tailed macaque, native to Southeast Asia. If we ever decided to hold an Old World Monkey Olympics, this little guy would almost certainly win a gold medal in swimming. Scientists believe long-tailed macaques developed their awesome swimming ability as a way to avoid predators. If spotted by a hungry raptor circling above, the long-tailed macaque can simply drop down into the water and swim to safety. Here, we see another type of macaque. This one lives in Japan. Unlike its tropical cousins, the Japanese macaque has a short, stub-like tail, kind of like a bunny rabbit. Scientists believe this is because it lives in colder environments.
The idea is that extremities are dangerous in cold environments, and so you shorten them up. And so among closely related species, you expect those in the tropics to have longer extremities, and you expect those in the higher latitudes to have shorter ones.
Like many other Old World monkeys, Japanese macaques also have special cheek pouches. Just like a squirrel or chipmunk, the Japanese macaque will use the pouches to store food. Check out this guy chowing down grapes. 5 grapes in 5 seconds. But remember, he's not swallowing the grapes. He's storing them. Another brilliant adaptation by Mother Nature. Now take a look at these baboons from Africa. Notice anything strange about them? How about the fact that, unlike most other monkeys, these guys seem to spend most of their time on the ground?
Many times when you're looking at a troop of baboons, you can't even see a tree in the picture. What are these baboons doing on the ground? Well, they happen to have gone through a period where the forests of Africa mostly dried up. And the African primates, for the most part, almost all of them had to adapt to some amount of life on the ground.
Baboon adaptation number 1, butt pads. Scientists call them ischiocallosities. Similar to how us humans develop calluses on our hands and feet to protect our skin, baboons have developed calluses on their backsides. The calluses are hairless and nerveless, so that when the baboon goes to sit down, it doesn't have to worry about damaging its precious derriere. Baboons also feature a large dog-like snout, which houses a ferocious set of canines. With a flash of its formidable fangs, the baboon is capable of warding off ground predators like hyenas, jackals, and sometimes even leopards. This way, it doesn't always have to retreat to the treetops for safety. Mother Nature has indeed designed an amazingly adapted creature. Climbing. It requires strength, agility, and courage. Many animals, including us humans, can do it. But some creatures are more talented than others. Primates are perhaps the most gifted climbers in the world. They are the super climbers. This is a gibbon. Native to Southeast Asia, gibbons are some of the most awesome climbers out there. Their long arms act like human legs turned upside down. The gibbon's arms are longer than the height of its whole body. They allow it to swing up to 50 feet in a single stride, and at speeds as much as 35 miles per hour. There are few primates that rival the gibbon when it comes to climbing talent. One of them is the spider monkey. Just like the gibbon, the spider monkey has incredibly long arms relative to its body size. But it also has a secret climbing weapon, its tail. The spider monkey has what's called a prehensile tail.
The prehensile tail acts as a fifth limb, enabling the spider monkey to grasp branches like an extra arm. It has a patch of bare skin on the underside of the tail, so that when it's grasping a branch curling around, that patch of skin offers extra grip.
Here, a spider monkey swings in the trees. Let's take a closer look at its tail. On X-ray, you can see the tail is filled with bones. Moving out from the base, these bones become smaller. At the tip of the tail, they're no larger than the size of a pea, which increases flexibility. With its amazing array of equipment, the spider monkey is one of the quickest climbers in the world. Ever wonder how quick? Get ready to find out in our Animal Science Experiment of the Week. Our experiment features two participants. One is the young karate master, seen here. The other is a spider monkey. Each will try to climb as fast as possible up these ropes, which are 20 feet high. First up, the Karate Kid.
Climbers, take your marks, please. Ready, get set.
And he reaches the top in a time of 8.05 seconds. Next up, the spider monkey.
Ready, get set. Get your treat, go get your treat. Go, 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 go.
4.12 seconds. Almost twice as fast as the Karate Kid. Why was the spider monkey so much quicker to the top? It's all in the technique. On closer inspection, you can see the spider monkey's feet grasp the rope in much the same way that its hands do. This means all four of its limbs are totally engaged during the climb, and they work in tandem to increase the efficiency of upward movement. So it was a nice try, Karate Kid. We appreciate the effort, but maybe next time, try climbing against someone your own size. When we come back, find out how lemurs have managed to survive in isolation for the last 50 million years. These primitive creatures are unlike any other primate in the world. Right here on Animal Science. Mother Nature is capable of great creation, but also great destruction. To survive on Earth is no easy task. That's why this next group of primates probably deserves some more respect. They are the primitive primates. Scientists estimate that lemurs have been around for about 50 million years. In evolutionary terms, that means these munchkins from Madagascar are about 35 million years older than the great apes. One of them, the ring-tailed lemur, has evolved to be a sun worshiper. Similar to cold-blooded reptiles, ring-tailed lemurs enjoy sunbathing. Not only is it relaxing, but it also helps the lemurs conserve energy by allowing them to warm their bodies through solar radiation. These little primates may be primitive, but over the years, they've certainly come up with some awesome survival techniques. From Animal Science, see you next time. Today on Animal Science, did you know that sharks are 5 million times more sensitive to electricity than humans? And it makes them the ultimate underwater predator. Plus, a skunk's odor can be diluted to 10 parts per billion and still make your eyes water. And an average human walks 26 times faster than the three-toed sloth. It's so slow, it's actually covered in vegetation. From the depths of the oceans to the tops of the trees, we found the most incredible creatures on Earth. Welcome to the fascinating world of animal science. Surviving in the wild takes a little something extra. After all, it's a jungle out there. That's why some animals have special abilities to see, hear, and even taste the world in ways we can barely imagine. You might say they have a sixth sense. There are a lot of fish in the ocean, but with all that space to hide out, they're not always easy to find. But a master predator like the shark has special ways to track down its next meal. Take their amazing sense of smell. Sharks can detect a drop of blood in a body of water the size of an Olympic swimming pool. And they're not just following their noses.
They actually have scent receptors not only at the front of their nose, but along the side of their body as well, and taste receptors there as well.
That's why sharks sometimes bump before they bite. And that's not all. Sharks have a built-in radar system. All living creatures give off low-level electrical charges, and sharks have a sixth sense, the ability to detect those electrical fields. See those dark spots on the shark's face? It's a sensory network called the ampullae of Lorenzini. Those pores open up to gel-filled canals under the skin, filled with nerve fibers that conduct electrical impulses to the brain. Sharks aren't the only electroreceptors in the sea, but they're far and away the best. Animal Science Award. Sharks are about 5 million times more sensitive to electricity than humans are. Even a flip of a fin generates a charge big enough to show up on a shark's personal radar. That extra edge is what keeps sharks at the top of the underwater food chain. Dolphins have a remarkable ability to use sound to actually see underwater, using a skill called echolocation. Dolphins don't have vocal cords like people. They produce whistles and clicks using nasal air sacs located below their blowholes. With echolocation, dolphins use those noises to paint a picture. They send waves of sound through an area of fatty tissue in the forehead called a melon. When the sound waves hit something, like a boat or a school of fish, they bounce back, carrying information about the size, shape, movement, and distance of whatever it was they hit.
So the sound hits the lower jaw and travels up the lower jaw to the inner ear and then into the brain, where they're able to form a mental picture of whatever the object was that was in front of them.
Echolocation lets dolphins see by hearing, even in the dark. Now that's what you call using your melon. Butterflies are some of the most colorful creatures on Earth. Their wings are actually translucent. The colors and patterns come from thousands of tiny scales arranged in overlapping rows like shingles on a roof. Some are pigmented. Others create color by refracting light like a rainbow. But there's more to a butterfly than meets our human eye. Butterflies have a super secret power. The ability to see ultraviolet colors. It's a whole spectrum beyond your ordinary red, blue, or yellow. UV light is invisible to the human eye. Flowers use ultraviolet colors and patterns to write hidden messages. And the James Bond of the insect world can read them.
To a human eye, the flowers just look pretty. Under UV light, a flower can look very different. They actually have almost like landing strips to let them know exactly where the nectar is. That is beneficial to the butterfly because then they know exactly which flowers they should be eating from.
So the next time you see a butterfly flutter by, remember, it sees a whole different world. And it's probably following an invisible ultraviolet roadmap to its next meal. Some animals just want to stay out of trouble. But secretly, they're packing quite a punch. If you leave them alone, they're as mild-mannered as Clark Kent. But challenge them and watch out. They may look as cuddly as a teddy bear, but even real bears know that skunks can make quite a stink. And that message couldn't be clearer.
Skunks have stripes because it's basically like a warning strip to let a predator know if you follow the strip from my head down to my tail, at the end of my tail is where you're going to get in trouble.
Under its tail, a skunk has glands that can spray an oily yellow liquid as far as 10 feet.
The skunk's spray. It's a smell that is a combination of rotten eggs with burnt rubber, with urine.
Skunks only carry a small supply of spray, and it takes up to 10 days to replenish. So they'll give you plenty of warning before cutting loose.
They will stomp their feet, they'll lift up their tail, they'll start backing into the person just as a forewarning. They really just want to use that spray as a last resort.
So if a skunk turns its back on you, just say, "Smell you later." Then turn your own tail and run. Meet the armadillo, a bright-eyed creature that looks like a cross between a turtle, an armored tank, and an accordion.
This is the regular skeleton of the animal. You can see that this part here is essentially the armor of the animal above the tops of the spine. Right between these 9 bands here is where it's flexible.
That's the accordion part. The armadillo's shoulders and hips are well protected, while the flexible bands let it twist and turn to its heart's content. An armadillo's only area of vulnerability is its unprotected underbelly. But most species of armadillos can shut down an attack by rolling themselves into a ball. Any animal looking for an easy snack could bust a tooth trying to bite down on a jawbreaker like this guy. A stingray on the move is an awesome sight. Their wave-like motion makes it look like they're flying underwater. A stingray at rest, they'd rather blend in to hide from predators. But if threatened, the stingray's got a weapon that even makes sharks back off. A poisonous barb at the end of its tail, which it can swing over its head like a medieval weapon. The barb is shaped like a Christmas tree with serrated edges and a sharp point. But the only things underneath this tree are grooves filled with a protein-based venom.
They're bottom dwellers. So if a stingray were to get stepped on, that's when people usually end up getting injured by them. Normally, it's not life-threatening unless that barb is able to hit a vital organ like your heart or your lungs.
Stingrays don't want to be stepped on any more than you want to surprise them. To avoid any painful encounters, do the Stingray Shuffle. Drag your feet along the ocean floor. The rays will feel the vibrations and pack up to find a more private spot. When we return, we'll look at horses and zebras, members of the same family, but oh, so different. We'll find out why one was born to giddy up, while the other was born to be wild. You'll learn about the tricky climbing mechanics of the squirrel and how a 600-pound bear claws its way to the top. When we look at the best climbers on Animal Science. On the surface, horses and zebras are equines with a lot in common. But horses have been working for a living for thousands of years, while zebras roam African plains and woodlands. Why is one domesticated while the other runs wild? Zebras and horses look a lot alike, and they're both part of the equine family. And it's a big family. Zebras have only 3 species, all found in Africa, but hundreds of breeds of horses can be found throughout the world. Bred for specific jobs over the centuries, horses vary tremendously in colors, shapes, and sizes, from small shaggy ponies to leggy thoroughbreds to giant-sized draft animals. But zebras aren't just horses that forgot to take off their striped pajamas. In fact, their differences are more than skin deep. Zebras have a different number of chromosomes, the cells carrying DNA, which contains their genetic blueprint. And those blueprints explain why horses get the rent paid, while zebras roam free. From tempers to tails, they're constructed differently. Zebras aren't adapted to the working life. For one thing, zebras aren't built for a saddle. Compared to a horse, a zebra has a shorter neck and back and a straighter spine.
The way the vertebrae are formed on the zebra, it's not as comfortable for the zebra to carry weight on its back.
A zebra's gait is choppier than a horse's, so it wouldn't be a smooth ride for a passenger either. Horses are generally better runners than zebras. They're sleeker and faster. That might be why they react differently to stress. In a fight-or-flight situation, both zebras and horses will flee as their first line of defense. But pushed into a corner, the zebra is more likely to fight back.
The zebra is much stronger in his neck. They fight with their feet and their mouth, so you can be injured very quickly.
That's not a quality you want in an equine companion. Domesticated animals need pleasant dispositions if they're gonna hang around humans, which is why you're never gonna see anyone walking a pet grizzly bear. Horses have coexisted with people for generations, but even a tame zebra is still a wild animal at heart. If the fastest animals on the planet held a race, it would be over before any of these guys even reach the starting line. When it comes to swimming, climbing, or even eating, their motto is, easy does it. The The three-toed sloth moves at a top speed around 0.15 miles per hour, making it the slowest mammal on the planet. Animal Science Award. Sloths spend their lives just hanging out upside down in trees. The plant-eating sloth is so slow that other organisms set up camp in its fur.
Their bodies actually provide homes for cyanobacteria, which are a kind of photosynthesizing organisms. So essentially the sloth becomes a kind of forest, possibly by virtue of the fact that they don't move around very much.
Cyanobacteria give the sloth's fur a greenish tint. And it turns out there's an advantage to looking like a bunch of leaves. Camouflage.
Their major predators are visually hunting animals. If you have green all over, you may not be spotted when you're in the trees.
So if you're trying to catch up with a three-toed sloth, try looking in the last place you saw it. Chances are that sloth is still hanging around. If sloths are the slowest mammals on land, manatees take the water award. They float along at speeds as fast as 5 whole miles an hour. Hit the brakes, guys. To find food, they follow their whiskers, 2,000 stiff hairs called vibrissae, and they're as sensitive as a fingertip.
It helps them to feel where they are, helps them for differentiating different kinds of plant material before they actually eat it. So they're more than just a regular whisker.
Because they're constantly grazing, manatees have been nicknamed sea cows. But their real kissing cousins? The elephant. What? You don't see the family resemblance?
A manatee's mouth actually has a lot of muscles in it. They use it to be able to pull plants and material into their mouths, very similar to how an elephant will use its trunk.
So maybe instead of a sea cow, manatees should be called water elephants. Kinda got a ring to it, don't you think? What if you had to eat the same exact meal day in and day out? That's how it is for koalas, who live in eucalyptus forests in Australia. All their food and even their water comes from leaves and bark. And they have adapted to their unique diet in very special ways. Koalas have one of the slowest metabolisms of any mammal. Because there's so little nutrition in eucalyptus leaves, koalas conserve their energy by sleeping up to 18 hours a day. And then there are those great big noses.
They need to be able to have a very good sense of smell so they know they're eating the right plants so they don't poison themselves as they eat.
Did you say poison? That's right. Eucalyptus is toxic to most animals, but koalas stick to the less poisonous varieties. So if you ever invite a koala for dinner, be sure there's plenty of eucalyptus on the menu. And save a little time for that after-dinner nap. It'll probably last until lunch. When we come back, you'll learn about the tricky climbing mechanics of the squirrel and how a 600-pound bear claws its way to the top. When we look at the best climbers on Animal Science. It takes a lot to reach the top, and these intrepid creatures aren't afraid to scale the heights. That's because they have the right equipment to take them all the way. Squirrels are the daredevils of the upper levels. They can be found on every continent except Antarctica. Where are they? Look up. They love a branch with a view. For most species of squirrel, half their length is their bushy tails, which help them steer and balance, the way gymnasts use their arms on a balance beam. The squirrel also has double-jointed hind legs. Doesn't sound impressive? Try it for yourself.
They can basically take their hind legs and rotate their feet around. It's the comparison to taking your feet and turning them so your feet are completely backwards while you're facing forwards.
The ability to turn its legs 180 degrees lets a squirrel scamper down a tree head first. That's what makes squirrels the top treetop acrobats. Black bears can fool you. They can weigh as much as 600 pounds, but like the tiny squirrel, they love to leave the ground behind.
Black bears are really known for climbing trees. It's a way to get up to leaves and berries and things that they want to eat. For cubs, it's a way to have safety.
Black bears have equipment that any mountain climber would envy. Each toe is topped with a powerful and non-retractable curved claw that lets them dig into the bark. Black bears are also excellent swimmers. If there's ever an animal triathlon with running, swimming, and tree climbing, bet on the black bears to win. They've got the right stuff. From Animal Science, see you next time.